It's no secret that divorce is often harder on women than it is on men. Studies show that men often fare much better financially than women do in the aftermath of divorce. And this fear of struggling financially keeps women stuck in these relationships far longer than it's physically or emotionally healthy for them to do so. And there are other fears too, like we worry about our children. What's going to happen to them when they're spending up to 50% of their time with this manipulative and controlling parent? How will we survive not being with our children for part of the time? And will the narcissistic person turn our children against us? Will the children resent us for breaking up the family? And then there are the fears about being alone. Can I live independently? Will I be able to make these large financial decisions on my own? Will I ever love again? Will our mutual friends cut me out because they've taken the side of the narcissist? What if my health condition worsens and I don't have the energy to take care of myself or the children? And, I could go on and on about these fears because I've been there. I have felt all these things on a deeply personal level, having been divorced twice. And both of my situations were completely different. So I feel like I'm able to speak to so many women on their fears and concerns about leaving a narcissistic person. So here's what I didn't know then, but I know now. Finding peace and happiness after leaving a narcissistic relationship, along with the confidence that you get from living independently, will transform your life in ways that you never could have expected. And I'm going to share some of those with you today. So I'm going to share how the unexpected ways that happiness and positive energy after leaving the narcissistic person can help increase your financial abundance, attract better relationships, fuel your career goals, improve your health, and completely shift your mindset. If you're new here, my name is Lori. I'm a former teacher and I have a master's in school counseling. I have a transformational coaching certification. And I help women who are either stuck in narcissistic relationships or they're healing from one that they've been in for a long time. And I help them learn to have the self-confidence and find peace, whether they choose to stay in their relationships or whether they go. So I'm glad you're here with us today. The narcissist can take all of your money, they can take all of your assets, leaving you alone and devastated, but you will still come out on top. How do I know that? Because you are one of the most resilient people in the world. You have deep empathy for others, you're loyal, you're kind. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to stay with this narcissistic person for so long. The narcissist picked you precisely because of all of these good qualities that you possess. And then he proceeded to knock you down to his level of low energetic vibration. However, these great qualities that you came into the relationship with are still there inside of you because they are part of your innate personality. Nobody can take those away completely. And as soon as you leave the narcissistic relationship, you're going to remember those qualities. They're going to come back to you. I remember going to my oldest daughter's the day that my toxic ex left. And I was sitting around with 3 of my children and we were laughing and making jokes. And I laughed so hard and with such abandon that I couldn't remember doing that for years before. And it was just like so foreign to me, because when you're with a narcissistic person, they dull your personality. They make you hold back at all times because you're so afraid of showing too much emotion. When you laugh a certain way, maybe it'll make them angry. Maybe it will make them act out. When you act too sad, it will make them act out. When you celebrate anything, they may act out. So you learn to dull your personality. And this situation that I was talking about with my children made me so sad, because I was thinking, I've deprived my children of my true personality for years. Like, do they even remember what I'm really like? My youngest daughter had never even seen the authentic me, because she'd only known me with my narcissistic partner. So that's a sad thing to deal with as a parent. I would love to know in the comments, how has the narcissist caused you to change? Have you been dulling your personality to keep the narcissist from acting out? Like, my ex used to go into periods of rage. Like, he'd wake me up during the night upset about something, and he would just go on for hours. And so I was so scared of bringing up bad news, or if I owed money for something, I was scared to talk to him about it. And often that would just make things worse, because I would put off bills for too long. I was just scared of his reaction. So we're going to be talking about the ways your life can transform, but there's one caveat to this transformation that comes after leaving a narcissist, and that's that you have to be doing the work to heal. If you don't take the time to do the work, you're probably going to end up back in a narcissistic relationship, and that's why I ended up being divorced twice. I felt like I was doing the work, but I really didn't do enough. I didn't spend enough time on my own working on my confidence and my peace and my independence. So make sure you do that. If you educate yourself on narcissistic personality traits, boundaries, trauma, suppressing your emotions, and improving your mindset, then you can start coming back to your true self. You'll need to adopt some healing practices like journaling, seeing a therapist, going to a coach, somatic exercises, and other modalities. But when you do, these things that I'm going to be talking about today will change dramatically. So, number one is your financial prosperity. When you are with a narcissistic person, you may be financially controlled. That's one of their favorite manipulations. Not only that, but your creativity and clarity are stifled, because they just keep you living in a state of fear and confusion. Those qualities of fear and confusion do not attract prosperity, believe it or not, but creativity and clarity do. So once you leave the relationship and start healing, you get more sleep, you're not worrying or arguing over every dollar, and you start making better choices with money. Like, maybe you start saving more money. You attract better job opportunities or clients. You finally have the energy to leave an old secure job. You may launch a passion project or a side hustle. And before we finish this section, I just want to mention that I have a group program coming up. It's called Becoming Conscious, and it's where I take you through all the steps to build back your confidence, Set healthy boundaries and break the bond that is making you feel stuck. I'll leave the details in the video description below if you're interested. It's a really great price for the first founding members, so check that out. And I just want to say that, it may appear that your narcissistic ex has a much better financial life for a while after you separate, and maybe he does, but your happiness will bring more lucrative opportunities for you in the long run. And I'll give you some examples of clients that I've had in the past. One client decided to take a transfer with her company, and her company paid for the entire move, plus they gave her a hefty bonus. So it got her out of the state that the narcissist was living in, and also she did much better financially afterwards. And then another client that I had, she was really struggling with a relationship and going back and forth. And finally, she decided to just block this person, this toxic person. He was taking all of her energy by talking to her all day long. And immediately, as soon as she started putting her energy back into herself and her business, she got the opportunity of a lifetime to open a new location and get lots of support from the building owners. So it was an amazing transformation. I was so excited to see it. All right, number 2, your purpose and goals will transform after leaving a narcissistic person. So when you're in a toxic relationship, there's very little energy left to build your dreams. You were either told that you were too much or not enough to succeed. And I remember a time when I shared my future goals for the year with my ex, and he just really put a damper on my excitement. He was saying, "How are you planning to do that?" Well, it hasn't worked so far. So it was such a dream killer. Since, not having him in my life, I've been able to really build my confidence. You might be inspired to go back to school or earn a certification. You might say yes to opportunities that you would have skipped in the past. You might be inspired to start a new business or pick up a passion project like volunteering or, starting a coaching business like I have, helping other people that have been through some of the difficult things that you've been through. Narcissists hold you back from planning for the future or taking steps to improve your life. Number 3, relationships. The narcissist discourages you from spending time with friends and family because they want to control your time. They isolate you from the people who support you the most. And when you're free from this toxic relationship, you smile more, your positive energy returns, and that allows you to reconnect with old friendships. Your relationships with family members grow and deepen. You attract new friends and romantic partners that are drawn in by your positive energy, and they will not cross over your boundaries. I was amazed by the opportunities that came to me through new friends that I made. They saw something in me that I had not seen in myself in so many years. Number 4 is your health. In the narcissistic relationship, you are under a steady state of stress with periods of acute stress. And the cortisol in your body, that stress hormone, it just always stays at a higher level, and it causes havoc in your body and inflammation. You may have been suffering from chronic conditions like IBS, migraines, hip pain, foot pain, weight gain, or any myriad of health concerns, anything that's chronic and your doctor says, I don't know what's causing it. Maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's stress. All those things come from being in a relationship with a toxic person. So as you come out of this narcissistic relationship, these symptoms will start to go away. And especially when you're doing the work that I mentioned before, all those healing modalities. And it may take a few months or longer, but you will begin to notice positive changes. Okay, here's the fifth and final thing. Not the only one, you may think of others, but number 5 is mindset. The toxic person keeps you in a state of negativity, whether it's them playing the victim or they're blaming everything that happens on you. They're having a negative outlook on the whole world at large. Once you're free of that, you begin to notice that there are so many beautiful, lovely people in the world. You will notice that you sleep more soundly, that your anxiety dissipates. You have more gratitude for the small things in life. And not only that, but your spirituality and your sense of a higher power watching over you increases. And I noticed that a lot, especially recently. I've been out for 2 years and I started all these practices way before I actually left. But in the past year, especially, I've been able to notice so many synchronicities and ways that, God or whatever the higher power that you believe in is watching over us. So you'll notice that more after you leave this toxic relationship. So the thing that you need to know is happiness can start whenever you choose. It can start today. Whether you leave the narcissistic person or not, you can choose to make some changes in your life. Start setting boundaries, start putting your energy into yourself, taking away your energy from the narcissist. No more arguing with them, no more defending yourself. It doesn't do any good. They don't care about all that. They're not going to listen. And, once you start doing these things, you start to feel more and more like your old self. And sometimes the narcissist will take themselves out of the relationship because they want somebody that's going to supply them with lots of high emotions and drama. And when you start putting your energy back into yourself, you're not there to provide that for them. Whenever you choose to do this, whether you're staying in the relationship or you're leaving, you will notice transformations throughout all areas of your life. And if you need me, I'm here for you. Stay to the end. Thank you for watching. And if you know any subjects that you want to learn more about narcissism, or you have questions about being with a toxic partner, if you'd like me to cover them in the future, let me know in the comments below. I'll be happy to look at those. I read all the comments, and I just thank you for being here. See you in the next video. Bye.